What's going on, Illumineers? Welcome to the first Freedom Gaming podcast. We are still looking for names, so if you do have any cool names you'd like to maybe see, just hit us up in the comment section, please. For those of you that don't know me, I'm John, aka Sisu. I'm part of the Freedom Gaming team. We are here with all 5 members here. So starting us up, we have Michael, aka Momentum, or Mike Senior, as some of you guys know him in South Florida. Michael, how you feeling tonight?
I feel fantastic. Thank you, John. Thanks for posting and commentating this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Next up, we have Mikey, aka Hayes, the Blurple King, as it's been called after his little SCG run. Shout outs to the mat. Mikey, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Living the dream. Just enjoying every minute.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Next to him, we have Joey, aka Automatic. Joey, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well. Glad we can put this podcast out here and try to get some momentum going here.
Yeah, definitely. And then last but not least, we have Sploosh Magoo, aka Brian. Brian, how are we doing?
Feeling awesome, man. Really happy with most of the results from the past week at SCG and looking forward to Las Vegas.
Yep, so definitely. So like you said, you just mentioned it, SCG, we have one big event that just happened. SCG is a great time for users that don't know. They do have a multitude of card games. They have Magic, One Piece, Star Wars, and, of course, Lorcana. I was lucky enough to play in one of the 2Ks in Baltimore during set 3. I had a ton of fun, and I told these guys, I only got to play in one. I was like, you guys have to go if you can. And they were lucky enough to play in the one in Tampa. Mikey and Brian both were able to play. Mikey, obviously, he top 82 of the 3, and then Brian got a nice top 8 on Sunday. So, Mike, we'll start with you. How was your SCG experience? How did you feel about it?
It was awesome. It was an awesome experience. You had mentioned playing in a best of 3 event when you played in Baltimore, and you topping there and how good of a time you had and telling us about it really drew us in. And then being in Tampa, which is pretty much a short drive for me. It's not a short drive, but 3.5 hours, whatever, not a big deal. And Brian being willing to fly down, so it all worked out really well. It was a lot of fun. The quality of play there, I think, was super high, because even at challenges, you get some one-offs. A lot of people going to their first tournament, they want to go collect the promos and stuff like that. You're not getting a lot of, hey, I'm just here for fun, let's have a good time. It's like, no, I'm here to win. Most of the people that are there at SCG are trying to win, so we play this game because anyone can win, and it's a competition. So it was a blast, and I was fortunate enough to get top 4 on Saturday and then top 8 on Sunday with the same lists. On Friday I played the same list, except I played 2 bells, and I took those out before Saturday morning. I was like, I'm gonna do it, and we took the 2 bells out and ran pretty hot for the next few rounds. So
yeah, definitely, the 2 bells, getting rid of them definitely worked out for you. And like you said, like everyone at these SCGs are like, they're playing because you play for money. Like, we're not playing for promos, we're not playing for prize tickets or anything. Like you're going because you are gonna get a check in the mail. Like, I got my check in the mail like a month later, and it was a great feeling. So like what you're playing for. So Brian, how was your experience? Like, what did you feel about the event?
Man, any chance I get to go and hang out with my friends, obviously being from South Florida, but currently not residing there at the moment. So last minute, grabbed a quick flight, flew into Tampa. Mikey picked me up, and then we got to, like we do, just doing some theory crafting, getting ready for the next day. Friday, I needed a win and in, and unfortunately I didn't get there. And then Saturday, I bubbled out with a record of 5-2. But getting just the fact that you get to see your own friends top, not only did Mikey top 8, but top 4. Again, he played some incredible players. No, I'm not. DeCandio was there. Frank Karsten was there. The competition, without a doubt, was significantly tougher, I would say, than a DLC. In terms of, hey, in 7 rounds, almost every single round you were playing someone of renown, right? And then I did, fortunately, got to top 4 on Sunday. It was with a bit of a jank deck, running the Bigaston, Maximilian, and then Mufasa's. But got to do the combo, got to see some really wide-eye responses, and it was a good time.
For those that don't know the combo, you basically have a Mufasa untapped with his Mufasa, and quested with it, played Gaston and Maximus in the same turn, and gained 5 lore after. So 9 lore in one turn without a dime.
Yeah, it was a minimum of 9, but we got to, I think on one of them I did like 12 or 13 in one turn. So it was great to see. All the guys from Labyrinth and 20 Lore were out there. We had a bunch of like big teams, like their entire roster came out. So R&B, No I'm Not, everybody was super nice, humble, and just great competition. Overall, super glad I went. And it was great practice, the best of 3s, and leading into Las Vegas, super stoked.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely almost like a completely different game playing best of 3 as opposed to playing the 2-game format, which we're used to in a DLC. So like the die roll matters just a little bit more. You have to kind of know like your lines throughout and know like be prepared to play on the draw potentially twice, be able and have to win. But again, like looking at the event, like I remember looking at the Melee just on Friday and Saturday specifically, and just seeing just absolutely how stacked it was. Like you said, all the Labyrinth guys. You have R&B. You have No I'm Not. You had Humble was even there. I think he was only there. He was only there Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Yeah, he didn't play the other days. Then you had Frank Karsten, who was just a special guest just at SCG, and he decided to play, which is wild to think about. You know, someone of like his renown, like from like winning a DLC, but being just like from his magic days, just like being there, like okay, I'll play Lorcana too. But Mikey obviously playing Blurple. How was your experience playing Blurple like with everyone else like there? Like, you know, obviously like it's a deck that people know about, but I don't think it's a deck that has had much prominence. So just I kind of want to just hear more about that a little bit.
Especially with the genie in it, you know, like that was, and I got the chance to play R&B and his Purple Steel, and he kind of had quested out for a turn, and I think I had an Ursula on board. And following turn, I played my Genie and tapped down Genie after he just quested out. And I proceeded to, like, he just never found the Zeus to be able to kill the Genie, but essentially he had, I want to say 3 Smees on board, and all 3 of them ticked for 3 turns without questing. And he was
suicide Smees.
Yeah, he was, it was fun. I mean, obviously not fun from his perspective, but to see those kind of interactions that you don't get to see very often is really like why we play these card games, right? Like it's kind of variants. There's this one-off thing that I did. Now I'm going to talk about forever, right? Like it's those memories you make making those combos.
Oh yeah.
So Blurple, and I got to do that Ursula Genie combo. People think it's super unreliable, but I did it a lot. I did it against No I'm Not twice. He had to read the card. He didn't know that I could do something like that. So yeah, it made my weekend. Even if I wouldn't have topped, being able to have those kind of interactions, like that kind of stuff, is what I love playing the game for.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it was definitely awesome to see. Like even though there was no stream or anything, but just to get all the messages and just like to follow along with the melees and see how you guys were performing. I was having so much fun with it. So that's SCG. So I highly, again, we're not sponsored by SCG. Like this is just from our 3 experience. Like there's one in DC at the beginning of October that I'm trying to go to. It's only like about a 4-hour drive for me. But it's just a great rent event. It's free to go in. You obviously have to pay for your events, but like if you want to just go and just check it out, like if you're close to it, just to see like there's vendors, there's different card games, there's even side events if you want to jump into. But 100% recommend it to anyone if you're in the area, if there's one coming to your area. So closing the book on one big event and going to the next one, we have 2 DLCs coming up this upcoming week in Vegas and Birmingham. We have 2 of us people on the pod going there with Michael and Brian, and then we do have a lot of people from South Florida as well going, and then one of our friends even going to Birmingham in England. Yep. So just Michael, I just want to hear about your mindset and your preparation going into Vegas and how you feel.
The great advantage living here in South Florida. I think the community here is very strong. We've been grinding, bouncing ideas off each other. One of my favorite sayings is "iron sharpens iron," you know, and I would be very surprised if there's not a couple of top 8s that come from South Florida, from this community. So yeah, I've been grinding. I wish I could spend a little more time, but I know the community down here has been hitting it hard, and being a part of that's been a blast. So trying different tech, just trying different avenues. I'm still I know at this point I should know exactly what I'm going to play. I'm pretty close, and I know I'm at the point where there's a couple cards that I may swap out. But it's been great. I feel good. I'm looking to have fun. I think that's the idea of this game. You mentioned SCG is really a tournament. It's intense, and so is DLC. But the idea, and it is Disney, and Lorcana is to have fun. So, and I think we got to continue to keep that in mind. Still be competitive, and I love every time I play and the interaction. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy the community, and I learn something every time. So
definitely.
That's been my prep. I'm ready. Mentally, I need to make sure my cards are ready. How about that?
Follow-up question. How, as far as for the three that you've gone to, how is this the one you feel the most prepared for? Like, how you feel the best going into this one, or no?
I do think, and having not played any other trading card games except this, and going into this, I do feel a little more prepped. And being at some other DLCs has helped. I do feel South Florida as a whole, the amount of people that I've talked to that are going to Vegas that haven't gone to the other DLCs, these are some guys that are going to be contenders. So I think the competition is going to be higher at this event than it has been at the others.
Nice. Cool. Brian, I know you're getting ready to go too. How do you feel about your preparation and your mindset going forward?
Thankfully, had a lot of obviously best of 3 practice at SCG. And then I myself have a smaller community in the immediate area, but I've been mostly playing online, testing with you guys, running different ideas across. It's great to have a team for that reason. I predominantly play green purple. I think green purple is in an excellent position this set. However, the consistency of red blue is what has attracted me to play the deck. Going into SCG was kind of the first time I really had touched red blue in a competitive environment. I mostly played the human Sisu on ice, red blue. Saw a lot of the mirror, whether it was like a red blue Mufasa, red blue items, or red blue Sisu, but just the consistency of red blue overall, I will 100% say it's a top 3 powerhouse going into Las Vegas, along with red purple and amber steel in my eyes. I have toyed around with red blue a little bit this week, tried out Manthony's version of the Imperial Proclamations. I think it's cool, but the consistency isn't as good, especially with all the aggro decks that have kind of cropped up with this set. I think it's a very healthy meta, and if your deck can't deal with aggro, then you already have an issue. So I think the human Sisus and the ice block version is probably the best in red blue. The uninkable count is high, but when that deck goes off, it certainly does a phenomenal job. And I think Joey can attest to that. I think he has the most experience out of all of us on red blue, if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I think red blue definitely is, like you said, a top 3 deck. I think going into Vegas, consistency is key. We talk about all these other DLCs where you can run into whatever you like, people taking their home brews or taking whatever. We went into Toronto thinking that we were going to see all green yellow, and I think John was the only one that saw one. And then everyone else didn't see anything else.
My first round.
Exactly. And so we were prepping very heavily into green yellow going into Toronto, and we didn't see a single thing. So I think consistency is key. I think blue red is one of the most consistent decks you can play. Curving out is very easy. Having the ramp that you need, drawing cards, playing cards like Visions of the Future, being able to dig very deep into your deck to find the answers that you need. Having a plethora of removal for the early game. Daisy is a big problem for aggro decks. If you can't deal with her on turn 3 or earlier, she's just going to run away with the game. Having access to Ice Block, which turns on your Brawls, which turns on your Human Sisu, which turns on your Medusas. Very important. And then to top it all off, you have your big Sisu, who's just your makeshift board clear, which can come down on turn 6 in certain builds. I think just cleans up everything that you need. It probably its hardest matchup is red purple, and I think that is a very big skill matchup. I think knowing what to ink, when to pull the trigger. Maui's are your best friend. Cusco's are your best friend in that matchup, because I cannot tell you the amount of times I've inked a Cusco or a Maui to see a castle or a library to follow up. Yep. And you're just like, punished completely. So knowing your matchups, knowing the consistencies of your decks, and just prepping as much as you can, like our guys are doing, it's the key to doing success with these DLCs.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like something that I've told you before, every DLC that any of us have gone to, it's just like make your deck do your thing before your opponent's deck does theirs, and just trust your testing. Like because your testing is your testing. Like even like going into Toronto for me, like I tested with Brian. Probably we tested probably 4 nights a week, and like I tested every single deck. Because I played Green Steel since set 2, and then when the Bucky got nerfed, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And then just like going into Toronto, I just at like probably the last week, I started testing in Emerald Steel again, and it tested really well against a lot of the decks that I was anticipating seeing. Your green yellows, your red blue, your RPs, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just take this, and I did, and I started off the day really well. So at the end of the day, like your testing is your testing. Like I can't trust your testing, and you can't trust my testing. Like if I think something is good, then like I'm gonna play it, and same thing for you. Like so, don't take what anyone else says. Don't take your deck. Like if you don't prepare, like you're just putting up the chance then. So Mikey, just going into Vegas, like I mean I know you're not going, but like what are you expecting to see like from everyone else, or like what preparation would you recommend, or even like or anything that you would think for the Blurple players out there? Obviously like that kind of is your deck now.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's my deck at all. You know, I'm happy to help people continue to tune it, because I think it could always get better. But as far as if I was going to Vegas, what would I be doing? You know, the guys have already mentioned what we think are probably the 3 most popular decks. It's going to be red, blue, red, purple, and Steel Song. So I would run a gauntlet, which would just be, you know, at least, I mean, 10, 20 games I'm talking, like just keep running the games against it until you really figure out what openers are the best for you in those matchups, so you know what to look for when you see those color combos, and see how you're faring, right? Because if you don't have a favorable matchup into at least 2 of the big 3, then you're going to have a rough time for most of the day. I mean, you could still get lucky and not see a single one of them. It can happen. But for the most part, those are going to be 3 very highly represented decks. And I mean, as far as for Blurple, you know, specifically towards Blurple, I'm pretty happy with where the list was at SCG. I am taking the 2 manners out. I don't want to say that what I'm doing now is completely correct, but I am testing Aurora 5-drop from set 1 to kind of clear the way for one of your bigger cards. You know, it's really for red-blue to help shore up that matchup, because that one can feel a little wishy-washy sometimes. I do think it's a skill matchup, but if they're using a Medusa or a Brawl on your Aurora, that's 1 less kill spell for your bigger guys, because they don't have a way to bounce it like red-purple does. And if they don't have it, or they try to give it a turn, and now you're playing something big after, and now they have to hit your Medusa or your Aurora first, that's an extra turn you're questing with either a Mufasa or a Dragonman or whatever it might be. So it's just on paper right now. I think in the video that I made following SCG, if you guys haven't watched that, you know, take a look. It's on our channel. Shameless plug. But I mentioned cutting the manners for an extra Donald and the extra Dragonman. I think that's probably a safer move if I was going to Vegas without the testing I have. But that would be specifically for Purple. And a little bit of a tangent here, but it just clicked with me. I was thinking, like, I feel like CJ, the guy that won an SCG on Saturday, the yellow-green player, I feel like that deck's not getting talked about, like his specific deck with the Lyle build. I had never seen someone play Lyle until he did, and it makes so much sense for the aggro matchup. And even against red-blue, if you bounce it to where Flabbershim can never quest, like it's, I don't know, like that's kind of spicy. Yeah. And it could help that matchup, but I still don't think yellow-green is the most well-positioned deck, but I wouldn't be shocked by it doing well in Vegas.
You've never seen anybody play Lyle?
in yellow-green.
Oh, okay. I was like,
in yellow-green.
My heart. Lyle is the man.
Yeah,
that was a back card.
Specifically in yellow-green, because in yellow-green you're able to bounce it with Muse. So
yeah,
if
exactly.
You're wrong, you bounce it, play it again.
John
so
says
you
it's
keep
the
getting
best.
reckless.
With yellow green being a very high roll deck and very high skill cap deck. I feel like the reason we don't see a lot of it, or we don't see a lot of people talking about it, is there's a select few people that like that style of play. I know, Mikey, you've played it a couple times and it just doesn't fit your play style, and I think it's a very grindy deck. You have to know your outs, you need to know what you're digging for. There's a lot of recycling in that deck. I think it's very difficult to pilot, but it just can high roll like crazy because you just draw so many cards.
Oh yeah, I've talked about it before with you guys that I think the high roll, its high roll is probably the best in the game, up there with Steel Songs. But I also, I don't think the deck itself is hard to play because like you have very specific lines. I think that your matchup knowledge, like you have to know your matchup knowledge, which it comes to testing. But like as a whole, I don't find the deck difficult to play. I played it a little bit in set 4, and I pretty much only played it in set 5. But then but just knowing the matchups, like so like inking something against like red blue, you wouldn't want to ink it against maybe RP or something like that. So I feel, but again, like I think it's a good deck. I know a lot of people don't like it into RP, but I kind of like the matchup personally. I do think that the red blue matchup is definitely bad, and then the Steel Song matchup is a coin flip as well. But it beats Blurple, so if we're gonna see a lot of that,
I'd rather not see it. If it doesn't show up, all my Blurple people out there, if you don't think yellow green's gonna show up, it makes your chances better because that matchup is abysmal.
Yeah, you see that hand, you will no longer have that hand.
Yeah.
So especially with the ramp too, like it just makes sense because you're ramping from hand and then like hoping to get to the pasta really quickly. Anyway, so going into Vegas, obviously, you guys have all talked about your preparation, which you think you're going to see. So just to close this out, I just want to hear everyone's like what they think is going to be the top 2 decks, and then so we'll start with Joey. So top 2 decks and why?
Yeah, I think top 2 decks in the finals are going to be Red Blue and Steel Song. Starting off with Steel Song, I think very consistent deck and very high roll. You can curve out very easily with Lanterns, with Naveen's, with Robin Hoods, whatever version you go with. I think it's a toolbox. There's such good removal. There's really good characters that quest well, that defend well. I think it has great matchups into everything, and like what you said earlier, John, where it does its job better than anyone else. It has its game plan, it does its game plan, and it wins games. You need to be able to knock it off its course, which is sometimes very difficult to do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Having Whole New World, I think you can spew out your hand so quickly. Sure, you're refilling them and potentially giving them all the answers, but being able to just churn through your deck and get stuff done is just so consistent. And then on the flip side, I think Red Blue has a very favorable matchup into a lot of things. I think there are a ton of good players out there in the country that are going to be showing up to Vegas that are going to pilot this thing very well, depending on what they bring. Like Brian talked about, the Proclamation card, that there's that version. You have the heavy item version. Me personally, I'm a Human Sisu pilot. I think consistency is key. You have very strong mulligans. You know you're mulliganing for a Tipo and a Fishbone Quill into a Hiram. And being able to mulligan 4, 5, 6 cards and effectively do your game plan every single time, I think is just prime position to win. I think it's just very strong. The matchups are there. I think it's a good DLC for you to be bringing red blue.
Yep, definitely. Especially like this is like, I guess technically the first one of the new format. Obviously, I know we've been playing this format for a while now. Since even before Toronto. At Toronto, we were playing in the competitive challenges too. I played the 8 a.m. You guys played in the 9. So it's definitely a format that we've been playing a long time, but it's the first like true like major essentially. So Brian, just your 2. What are your 2 top decks, and why do you think so?
I think it's going to be red purple and red blue. I personally had a opinion that red purple wasn't the hardest deck to play. After SCG and going up against No I'm Not and a few other really high skill level red purple players, I have changed my mind time and time again. Red purple has shown us at DLCs why it's so consistent, and watching these guys pilot this deck, No I'm Not in particular, like that guy went into the tank every single turn. Top 8, it was untimed, and he really thought out every single turn of his, and he came through. I think guys like that showing up are what put red purple in such a high turnaround from day 1 to day 2. I think red purple will definitely be the most represented on day 2 coming out of Swiss. And then red blue, as Joey mentioned, I think it's in a great spot right now. Very forgiving with the high uninkable counts. It's a discussion we've had in the past. You're looking at 18 to 21 uninkables, but the Tipo and the Fishbone, some people running Donald, it really is forgiving. I will say that in previous sets, it was a little bit easier to just drop a dime on an empty board and move on with your life and go to the next turn. However, with the hideaways and the Cuscos being able to ink those items, you really have to kind of think things through before you just start dropping these crucial pieces onto the board. So hideaway has been really great answer for castles and libraries, as well as the Cusco, and I think it's going to be those two colors, or those two color combinations. Something I'd like to touch on before, we after we do go through all our predictions, is the 2-game format, and kind of segueing into like what Continentals are going to look like. So I'll pass it back to you for now.
Yeah, of course. Mikey, what do you think with your top 2, and why?
Yeah, I mean, my top 2 is similar to Brian's. I do think red purple players, and again, don't hate me for this, I think red purple is a pretty low ceiling to get into the deck. And one of our locals tried Blurple recently and was like, yeah, when I want to turn my brain off, I play red purple. But once I played Blurple, I was stressing every round, and I was like, yeah, pretty much that's how it goes.
Yep.
It's a fun deck, but the skill gap, right? Like, I mean, it can be a very good deck at its floor, and you can win tournaments with it at its floor, but to take it to the next level, but I see a lot of these people doing it, like No I'm Not, and Ed and Brian mentioned, when you're playing No I'm Not in top 8, the guy thinks through every single play, and he's not slow playing at all. It's just, you can tell he's literally he's mapping out the game in his head. While in Swiss, he never went to time. He was always one of the first ones done. So it's like a mind switch, right? Like, it's pretty cool to see. I will say, I think Steel Song's biggest hindrance is itself. Like, most of the time that deck loses to itself.
Yep.
Like drawing multiple hole in the worlds or whatever it might be. But when they high roll, man, like, God, you have to kind of just say you have to just take it on the chin and go on to the next one. Mm-hmm. Perfect example is SCG again. I'm sorry, I'm using all these examples just fresh in my mind, but DeCandio kept 7 against me on the play, and I was like, this isn't going to be fun for me. And turn 1 Robin, turn 2 Lantern, turn 3 use Lantern, play Naveen, Hole in the World, and on the play. So again, I think I had Tipo out, and that was it. And you're fumbling. You're so far behind in tempo at that point. Like, there's not much most decks can do. I do think red blue is weak to aggro, like to where red purple. There's not a lot of decks that can 2-0 red purple consistently. Mm-hmm. Where red blue can get 2-0'd by aggro, or even like a green purple tempo or stuff like that. So I think that could be the one thing that maybe stops red blue from being fully represented in top 64. But I think so. Again, red purple, and I still think red blue is, if it gets in there, it's going to be one of the final 2 if it doesn't get into the best of 3 part.
Yeah.
Just to hit on that red blue side of things, one of the lines to deal with aggro is very heavily uninkable.
You got to block and the little too.
Yeah, so like you really deplete your hand to be able to deal with aggro. But if you are able to sequence enough to get to turn 6, if Big Sisu, that's what turns the tide. but definitely a 2-0 against aggro is very likely.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like if you can survive long enough to get the Wrath and then just deal with their board because at that point like you're just dealing with their entire board, then you live. But almost everyone that you'll talk to will have a YP horror story from round 1 of DLC. Yeah. Just the
best it's ever been. This is
Lilo.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Like you were saying, like this is the best deck. It is like a legitimate deck now. It's not just like, oh haha, you know, I'll go 2, 5, 10 and then just pray. Like no, like this is like a legitimate deck now. Like you have to worry about that, about the Daisy, about the gather knowledge or whatever it's called. Like it is a very real deck, and it is scary. When it does, you have to curve out. Like it goes to 3 ink and it's just like, all right, cool. Windshield wipers, just going.
GG's.
Yeah, exactly. It is definitely a very scary deck. If you haven't tested against that, like you need to test for that. Michael, what do you think with your going into Vegas? Like, what are your top 2 decks?
The most consistent, I think, is red purple. I think that seems to be the most consistent deck. You're going to get 1/1s. If you don't get a 2-0, it's like Mike said. The chance of red blue getting an 0-2 is higher than I think red purple, just from that standpoint. But they come back and it is somewhat dependent on your matchups. But I think in this format, I think Brian hit it that we're on a level playing field, probably more of a level playing field than when we've been in the past, especially with Bucky out. I think we're going to see some surprises. Don't be surprised if you don't see even maybe a yellow blue or emerald steel, still there. So you're going to see some stuff that's going to catch people off guard, and we can phase into the last part of our talk here and talk about the element of surprise. This 2-round format and how much of the element of surprise is really a part of it. Sure, we can think about all the different types of matchups that are out there, but there's still stuff that hasn't been tapped into. Even in the set 5, it's still fairly new. There's the stuff that's popular, and then there's stuff that, hey, maybe this combination, look at Atlanta. Atlanta was not a non-meta match that took top. So I think we're going to see that again here in Vegas.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Another dark horse is purple steel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the bounce Pete is so good into so many decks. Like, and that's probably the deck that could most consistently beat Steel Song.
Yep, just
turn them off.
Just turn, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like any lock, like any lock is good. Like you just have just a handful of cards you can't play. And like as someone, I played Steel Song the little bit I've played, and there's times where your hand is just 4 songs that you just can't play.
They're all uninkable.
And they're all uninkable with the exception of strength, which some are or bear. And like so you just get to this point, you're just like, well, draw. Oh, another song. Quest and pass, and then they just bounce the Pete because you just can't deal with it, and like bouncing the same Pete multiple times, that is definitely a true dark horse.
A sleeper deck for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
John, what are you thinking for top 2?
So my top 2. So just thinking about it, like obviously, like I've talked a lot about green yellow. I think that the deck, like I said earlier, like the high roll is probably the best in the game, up there with Steel Songs. But like some of the matchups are a little dicey. Like RB is a little tough. RP is kind of close to 50-50, and Steel Song is probably close to 50-50. I personally like the RP matchup. But that could just be just me being comfortable against it. Just playing so much and just being favorable against it as a green steel player prior. But also like no deck has won a DLC back to back, and green yellow did just win Toronto. So in that case, I'll pick RP and Steel Song. I just think those 2 decks is being the most consistent, and then just like I said, like give me a deck that can do its job better than anyone else's, and that's what Steel Song does. Even if it does, so I think just like a Steel Song player on their day, like if it's just their day, there's nothing you can do about it. Like Frank, I think Frank Karsten said it right, Mike, that after he won, like he was like, I wasn't the best player that day, but my deck was.
Yep.
So
he did.
Like
literally said that.
Yep, and he was playing Steel Song. So
yeah.
So just to close this out, just Brian, I know you want to talk a little bit about the 2-game format, and then just Continentals. Just so I mean, obviously after playing an SCG in the best of 3, like at like a higher level event, and then playing like so many DLCs, this is I think your 4th DLC. So like you just like obviously like we all prefer the best of 3. Like the 2-game format is like it's kind of a dud just because like all the draws kind of suck at the end of the day.
I will say, coming into the best of 2 format, I was very apprehensive. Obviously, all my prior TCGs, Magic, Hearthstone, it's always been best of 3. You know, you're comfortable with what you know. I definitely don't dislike the best of 2. I hope that they make some sort of adjustments. I know people have floated some cool ideas around. Certainly makes the day go by a little bit faster whenever Melee is working. However, I am super curious. I know at the beginning of the season, if we want to call it, that they had put some information out about a point system to incentivize players. I know at this point it's not happening, but just to have those ideas floated across from like official channels, right? It like they put it out that there was going to be a point system. That way it would incentivize players to continue to attend DLCs. Hey, maybe you didn't get an invite from top 16, but here's an alternative way. So now I believe we have the official word that there is going to be a LCQ in January. So super interested to see how that pans out, like what kind of cap they're going to put on it. Obviously, look at Atlanta, like 512 people is what they had capped originally, and then it blew up to a 2K, and since then they've had a great showing at every single tournament. So I don't think the 2-game format's going anywhere. However, I'm definitely curious to see what the LCQ and then Worlds is going to consist of. Is it going to be like a 1-day, 2-day kind of thing, you know, a 2-game format into 3-game format? Or as you've mentioned, Mikey, maybe, hey, you've already done your 2 games, right into 3-game format. But then moving into next season, what can we look forward to? Is it going to be all the same locations? What kind of events could it be? Are they going to limit the cap, put it lower? I doubt it, but super interested. I love that we kind of, for all of us that are playing now, right, this is the very first year, and we all got to participate and kind of see it grow from here, right? Disney is a huge IP. The card game seems to have garnered plenty of attention. I know there's rumors of maybe a DLC Japan. I will definitely be attending that one if that happens. But see where it goes from here, how it grows. Is it going to be now like qualifying for Europe, North America, and maybe like Southeast Asia? How do they break that up? So I love all for like Continentals and Worlds. Hey, Disneyland and Disney World, that's awesome. That is an incredibly easy sell for my family, and I'm sure all of our families. Everybody loves Disney anyway. So here's to hoping that I get an invite. If it doesn't happen, I think we still show up, right? But just to see where it goes. As I mentioned, 2-game format isn't going anywhere, but what kind of changes that they make going forward into next year.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see like what Continentals, at least over here, just because it's like there's 6 DLCs, so that's 16 people per DLC.
We have more.
Yeah. Right. So or just the amount of people that are going to be qualified, because I think they did pass down the invite. So with 16 times 6, that's what, 96 people.
There's only 4.
Four in Europe, yeah. So that's even less. So like,
well, then we have the LCQ.
No. Yeah, so it's just a matter of how high do they want it to go. There? But yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. But like a 96 person tournament, like that was if there wasn't going to be an LCQ. Like how many people are going to advance from the LCQ? Like, are you just going
to? What's the world's qualification as well?
Exactly.
You advance from Continentals.
Yeah, because think about it. If you cut down like if you just do like 16 people, that's a 32 person world event. Like that's just a bracket basically. That's a 4-round. That's a 4-round event or 5-round event. That's a 5-round event. Could you imagine going to Worlds and playing 5 rounds? That's wild.
All the marbles, and what do those marbles consist of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They obviously spoiled Whole New World and some other stuff, but like, that was the decision, right? As you guys know, but for the viewers watching, like I was teetering on the fence so much. I had the Vegas ticket, but an hour before we did this podcast is when I bought the plane ticket. Like making top 64 in Atlanta, I was like, man, I came this close. I want that invitation. Let's try to get it. Try to, take every chance we get just to be able to say, hey, I got to go to the very first Continentals. I got to go to the very first whatever it is. It is an accomplishment to say, hey, I got top 64 in Atlanta, but now you're just like hungry for more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're hungry for more. So shout out to all the South Florida guys going to Vegas, and then Hector and Danny heading to the UK to try to
Birmingham, baby.
Take it home.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's all we have for this first podcast. Like I said, we're still looking for names. So if you guys have any names, definitely hit us up in the comments section. For everyone in Freedom Gaming, so hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back probably right after Vegas, with a couple days after that. Obviously, we'll recap Michael and Brian's experience, and then we will definitely all be looking at the results, especially from Birmingham as well as in Vegas. So like I said, for everyone here at Freedom Gaming, I hope you guys all enjoyed this first podcast, and have a good night. Peace.
Take care.
Peace.